take the same $200,000 and say, okay, rather than buy a $200,000 stock with my $200,000, I can buy $1 million home because I only need to put 20% down on that home and I can leverage the rest of that investment. So now instead of buying a $200,000 investment in stock, I can buy $1 million investment in real estate. And if
Wow.
my real estate goes up 20%, I get I get the appreciation of the entire value of the investment, not just what I put in it. So now a 20% improvement in my investment yields me 100% improvement gain on my cash investment. So my cash on cash return for only a 20% gain in equity is the same as what it would take to do 100%. And getting a 20% gain in equity happens a lot faster in real estate than 100% gain happens in stocks.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back, all my homies and haters, to another episode of the Executives Playbook. My name is Thommy Kane, and today I have a really cool guest for everybody. His name is Shaun Rawls. He is the founder of Rawls Consulting Group, which basically invests in businesses and in people. It's kind of a growth-minded organization. He also created the most successful real estate company in Atlanta, Georgia, which is basically Keller Williams Real Estate. It's a residential real estate firm. They have over 2,000 agents and over $4 billion in sales. He built this company from the ground up. He was recognized by Real Trends as being one of the top 40 real estate brokers in America. He's named among the 200 most powerful people in real estate in the United States. He's an acclaimed national speaker. He's a published author. He wrote the book Effortless. You can buy it on Amazon. It'll be linked right below this video. And all around, he's just a wonderful guy. He's a family man, a great father, and a great husband. And let's get right into it. First of all, I just want to say that I'm super, super, super thankful that you wanted to do this.
Man, I was excited. That was a no-brainer.
It made me happy when you hit me up and you were like, I want to be on your podcast. I literally was like, what? Yeah, man. I
was like, I didn't even know what the hell you were doing. I was like, I want to be on it. I mean, I was half kidding, half like if it was real and it was something I could be on, I'd love to be on it. But I was like, hell, I don't know. I mean, if you want me to rap, I'm not your guy.
Yeah, no, well, I'll tell you why I'm doing this. So for about like the last 7 years, I've had a bunch of people go, you really need to start a podcast. I've had a lot of people tell me to do it. And I've tried various times, and then I finally started one, and then COVID hit right at the beginning of it. I got like 4 interviews in, and then it was like COVID and nobody would come to see me. And I wasn't doing, Zoom stuff then. I actually had like a location. People would come and sit down. And then I decided to get back into it recently, but I was going to do politics. And I realized very quickly that I don't want to do that because it's super negative. You get caught up in the day-to-day of the bad news and all this crap that's coming at you on a daily. It's super draining. And then people and their comments and negativity and the stuff, it's
the scary thing. I mean, if you play on, social media at all, like it was funny. I did a post about a quote. I was listening to something and somebody said that Elon Musk, the reason he's so successful is he hires really smart people and he leaves them alone. And he only hires people who want to solve the toughest problems. And I thought that was brilliant. And
Yep.
I was like, I just cited the source, right? And I just like, this quote came about, Elon hires these people, they want to solve the most difficult problem. People jumped all over my shit. Like, you had me till you said Elon Musk, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I mean, everything becomes political is my point. Like you got to be so careful. And I'm usually pretty careful about staying pretty neutral on that. And I didn't really think I crossed the line by just citing a source, but apparently I did. So, but it was kind of interesting.
yeah, it's crazy. There's a lot of there's a lot of things I like about that guy. And granted, I know that, there's some recent things that happened that people are pretty upset about, and some of them very valid, and I get it. But that doesn't necessarily take away a lot of the great things that guy has figured out and accomplished.
Tommy, show me one genius that's not a nut. Show me one genius that has a lot in common with the common man. Doesn't exist. Like
It's true.
you don't have to agree with them, but batshit crazy comes with genius. I mean, Albert Einstein was batshit crazy. Like all these people, batshit crazy. They don't have much in common with me and you because we're just hard workers. But we have to recognize the genius where it exists and not. I mean, I think to not do that, I think is a poor human choice.
I agree. That's actually what this podcast is ultimately about, is that I felt like throughout my life, I've been so fortunate because even with the successes I've had lately, like I really owe it all to all these amazing people that I've met throughout my life that have given me tremendous advice, people far more successful than me that I was fortunate to cross paths with who had tremendous advice that I listened to and I took. And so I thought about this and I was like, I really would love for people out there that have goals, dreams, want to accomplish things, but maybe were born in circumstances like I was that didn't really have the opportunities that a lot of people might have had coming right out the gate. But through the right kind of knowledge, through the right kind of information and advice, through, maybe they could learn something. And that's why I was like, I want to create this channel, the Executives Playbook, and I want to get all these wonderful people that I've met throughout my life to come on here and talk to me and offer up this incredible insight that can allow the viewer who watches to hopefully learn something the same way that I did from the people that I've met in my life. And that's what this whole podcast is about.
So what are you calling it?
It's the Executives Playbook.
I love it.
And ultimately it's just it's kind of like, because I'm an executive and I own my own business, but also because everyone out there to a certain degree is an executive because we're all brands, right? Like everybody's like a walking brand these days with the way things that, with the internet and how it's all worked out. Everybody's a walking brand. So you have to have that entrepreneurial spirit. You have to be able to sort of maneuver with the way things are now. And everyone's sort of an executive. So I figure when I get people like you on and that have, the success you've had, I know that you're going to have information, and I know that you're going to have some wise words that people out there that are trying to get whatever it is they're trying to get off the ground, there's going to be some information that you have that I think will help them.
Well, I hope so.
Ideally.
I hope so.
So
That's cool, man. Well, I'm excited to be on it, and I'm excited. I think it's great for you, and what a cool thing. I hope it's an amazing point of success for you.
Thank you. Well, the thing is, the business that I have has been getting more and more successful every day, and I'm very grateful for that. And that ultimately is what is my breadwinner. It's how I get by. I'm really doing this ultimately because it's fun.
But it's your brand. I mean, it just increases your whole celebrity, whatever the celebrity is. I mean, it's part of who you are. So it's a moneymaker for you. Even though if it's not a direct moneymaker, you know what I mean?
Sure. I've seen you do a bunch of videos, and I've been watching them. I actually did a bunch of research on you. I do that with any guest before I ask them questions. I like to find out a lot about everything that I can about them. And you ended up building the most successful real estate company in Atlanta. So what I would like to ask you is tell me a little bit about that. And also when you're telling me a little bit about how that whole thing happened, my ultimate question is, in the beginning, what was it that separated you from every other real estate person that allowed you to become this successful in the first place? If you had to put your finger on it.
That's well, there's a lot of answers to that, and there's not a simple one, right? Real estate was kind of funny for me though, but it's my grandmother was a real estate agent. She's still alive. She's 98 years old.
Wow.
She was a big producer with Remax when I was growing up, and I paid attention and realized that she lived in a nice house. She drove a nice car. She never had a boss she complained about. Um, and I thought, that's cool. So I go to school at Georgia Tech. And after my freshman year, when I turned 18 in the summer, my birthday's in the summer, and I turned 18 and I took the real estate course between my freshman and sophomore year. And I thought, this is so much more interesting than any of the shit I'm learning at Georgia Tech that I was like, I think this is what I want to do. So I finished my college years at Georgia Tech, and I'm probably one of the few people that went to that school is, for what it is, and never went on a job interview. I mean, I literally left and went into real estate to work for a friend's mother. And I was teaching tennis at the same time. That's how I stayed afloat. I worked with the women's team at Georgia Tech when I was there as an assistant coach, and then was teaching teams and individuals, and that's kind of what kept me alive and able to eat during the day for the first couple of years. Because it's hard to get into real estate when you're 20 years old or 21 years old because you look like you're 15, and who's going to buy a house from you? But that's when I got into real estate, and I did that, and I struggled for a while, and I got some traction, and ended up at Remax ultimately, and then got introduced to a guy that was bringing a company called Keller Williams to Atlanta from kind of a mentor and a big person in the industry locally, and my ex-wife and I decided we would open the first franchise for Keller Williams Realty in the state of Georgia. And I
That
love the model. I felt like it was something that was new for the real estate agent, and it recognized the agent more than other models had in the past. Um, and it offered some creative freedom. And I met the guy who started the company out in Texas, and I was really drawn to him. I like smart people. Um, and real estate's kind of a place that as an industry, if you're smart or you're good, a lot of people don't let you copy off their paper, and they're not big sharers. Um, so Gary Keller, who started Keller Williams, he was all about like education. Let me show you how to do this. Let me show you how to build a big business. Let me show you what the models are for agents to kick ass, and let's show them how to make themselves the brand and not the company. And there were just a lot of things that seem a little more commonplace now, but in 1999 they were not. So we opened it and we started it and we started growing it, and it just kind of I was kind of a boots on the ground leader. And when you open a real estate company, you can be kind of the guy that sits. I used to say that real estate, aside from prostitution itself, was probably one of the oldest forms of it. Um, because you always had some fat cat broker sitting in a big cushy office while everybody was out turning tricks on the street, right? That was real estate. And I didn't want to be that kind of broker. And I was just kind of a boots on the ground broker. And I was coming from a successful sales business. So I taught everything that I knew and everything that worked for me and share. I just opened kimono, open book, and I just loved it. And I love pouring into people, and I love creating opportunities for people, and I love helping people do better than they did yesterday. And I just think that authenticity and that genuine desire to share and help and care and coach and consult. I just think that was just became kind of a corporate culture for us, and we just became known as the Rawls Group, and the Rawls Group just became
it's
known for that, and we just attracted a lot of people because it didn't take much to realize that if you came to one of our meetings or came to listen to me talk about how to do something, that it just felt different and it had a different vibe and it had a just a sense of genuineness that I don't think other companies had.
That really speaks to your leadership. But before I ask you this next question, let me turn this little fan off. It's driving
Yeah,
me
go for it.
nuts. Oh, all right, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know why, but it was like it was
I couldn't hear
making
it,
this little
so
noise.
you're probably hearing it on your end.
Oh, okay. That's good that you couldn't. So yeah, it really does speak to your leadership. What I would love, because I was actually, you kind of almost sort of answered my next question. As a person who owns a company, I have a company with a bunch of salespeople that work for me, and you guys were listed as one of the top places to work.
Ooh,
And
that was probably my proudest achievement.
really,
Probably. I
yeah,
mean,
I
it
could
was
see.
kind of in the first year we did it, I think was I want to say it was 2009 or 10. And we did it 5 years in a row. And it was unprecedented that a company won it 5 years in a row. And it was like it was the big because of the size of our agent base, it was the we were in the large business category for that,
Mm.
which meant that we were competing with like, Atlanta's got Coca-Cola, we've got Home Depot, we have UPS. I mean, it was to win that as a corporate culture, as a real estate company, which when the real estate market was, I can remember being interviewed by the guy the first year, and he was like, "Look, it's one thing to be on it." He's like, "But A, you're a real estate company. B, we're in the middle of a recession, and it seems to be one of the hardest real estate times of all time. And yet your people like love going to work here." He's like, that was just, and that's why I say, I mean, the years that we won that were some of the toughest years of real estate in Atlanta's history at the time. And
Well, I mean, what was it that like? I mean, that's a really incredible achievement. I agree with you that like if I won something like that, my gosh, I'd like walk away being like, oh my goodness. I mean, like that's a
yeah, it's
great.
humbling. It's very humbling.
What is it that like that you? What were some of the secrets? I feel like, or what was like your philosophy? I guess that made it so that people love to work for you like that.
It's a good question. I don't know if it was so much of a philosophy, but when the recession hit, like it started getting people's attention because, and listen, I grew up on the south side of Atlanta, which which kind of fits the mold for most south side, north side kind of conversations of a city. So I was not born with a silver spoon. Don't live with one today, but I never would that it wasn't like I had a leg up on anything. If anything, I felt like an outsider. And the companies that were the number one biggest real estate companies were a company like Harry Norman was a local Atlanta company. It had been around for the 50s, and it was the number one real estate company forever and ever and ever and ever and ever until we became that company in 2010.
Mm.
And it's when that time hit and it's we started hearing that, you know, these companies that we kind of all respected and revered, they started laying off people. And this person got fired or that person got fired or they were cutting back on whatever. And we just kind of stood up and said, look, here's the deal. I'm not gonna let anybody go. We're gonna make sure, and we're
Wow.
gonna make sure that we're gonna focus on people over profits.
Mm.
But and that was kind of our battle cry during that time was people over profits. And we poured into our people. And it was like, look, if you like your people, come to these classes, learn how to sell more real estate because the only way we're going to keep our people employed is by everybody doing the best business they can do. And we're going to pour into you and give you every opportunity to do that. And I think that probably had a lot to do with it, honestly, because we were so committed to helping people, scratch and claw for transactions and figure out how to serve the public at the highest level and create information that was fact-based and not opinion-based, so that when you wanted to sell your house or you wanted to buy a house, you were talking to somebody that had great data and great information and could show it to you and deliver it to you in a way that nobody else on the street could.
Wow. So yeah, it was more about selling through transparent honesty
Sure.
than just like trying to, you know, use car salesmen
Well,
them.
if you go back to that time, I don't know where you were, but it was the lack of information. It's there's always two things that are either at play, I've found, and one is emotion and one is logic. And when things change economically, particularly for businesses or people in business, um, logic's not prevalent, but emotion is. And so you have a lot of people that go into fear-based modes. And it wasn't just people in the real estate, it was everybody, anybody economically was just like, what is happening? And most importantly, what's going to happen? And where's this puck going? And am I going to be okay? And people that, from a homeowner standpoint, so many people were upside down on their houses that, you know, prior to that shift in the economy, if you went to the closing table, your trophy was the profit you made from being a homeowner.
Right.
And what I tried to tell people during that time was, okay, the rules of the game are changing. Instead of competing with, 13 houses in your local market, now somebody's competing with 300.
Mm.
And they're upside down and equity is disappearing fast because of what's happening with real estate prices. And what sellers need to understand is the trophy you get from selling your house is a closing statement. Even if that closing statement says you had to bring $5,000 to the table to be done with your mortgage, you were a winner because there were 30,000 other people who wish they could trade places with you,
Right. Right.
and they can't unless they have a buyer. So when you're dealing with that, you're dealing with a lot of fear. And then you get companies that start sending out false information. And then you've got people making these huge emotional, financial, family decisions. It had to be on real information. In fact, I can remember there was in one of the
Wow.
we had 6 offices in the Rawls group, and one of them was in an area, and there was there was a local newspaper that was kind of a big community newspaper,
Mhm.
and one of our competitors took out an ad, like competitors that I like really respected, took out a full page ad and said they were number one. They were the number one real estate company and whatever. And if anybody knew their whatever, they were the number one company. And I got so pissed off because I was like, this is just wrong. And so I took out an ad. I took out an ad. It basically said, hey, last week's paper had a real estate company that said they were number one. And I'm here to set the record straight. They're not.
We are.
No,
Oh, you didn't
no.
say we are. You just said they're
And
not.
what I said was, and more importantly, and I'm writing this ad, and I'm paying for this ad to let you know, I'm not saying we're number one either. The real number one company was Coldwell Banker in that market. And I
Wow.
said we were number two or three, and that company that made the ad was two or three. I can't remember which it was, but I took out the ad and said they're not number one. They're lying to you. And we're
Wow.
not number one either, by the way. The real number one company of sales in this marketplace is Coldwell Banker right now.
But that level of honesty was huge
Huge.
for
But
branding your
everybody
company
was
as
like,
a
you lost
truth.
your freaking mind. And I was like, maybe, but I'm like, look, and that's when we went kind of crazy. And my current wife and I worked together, and we Jerry and I we had come up with these statistics for real estate that we wanted to disseminate to our people. And so we came up with these statistics studies. We had a guy that was in our company that was an ex big corporate guy, and he had access to all this stuff, and he loved data and numbers. And so we worked to create an amazing group of statistics that was like 90 something slides of information that were not for you, the consumer, but were for our agents. And every quarter we would download the all the statistics of the marketplace. We would put them in these slides and we would break them down. And they had nothing to do with who's number one. It was like what makes houses sell, what makes houses not sell, what's the breaking point of whether you have a price reduction or you're not, and what's average, not average, above average and below average. What do those homes look and smell like statistically? And so we would do, and then we would present these things. We'd go to a movie theater and we would project these stats, and we'd rent out a movie theater for like 2 or 3 hours in the morning when they weren't playing movies. And Jerry and I would stand at the front of the movie theater and we would present the stats to all of our agents. And we had, and for real estate agents to like stats just seems like there's no freaking way. But we would fill a movie theater and we would have agents sitting on the floor of a movie theater while we presented these stats. And it was the purpose of the stats was kind of the reaction to that ad I was telling you about. And it was, you guys are going to be truth tellers in the marketplace, and you're going to have stats and you're going to have numbers that are going to absolutely, unquestionably be truthful. And you're going to help people make the right decisions in their life based on real information and nothing other than that.
That's
And
that
that's what started, and all those statistics are still alive and well. In fact, the guy ended up selling the company to a guy that worked for us, and now he lives in Colorado and he's doing it for companies, for Keller Williams offices all over the country now.
incredible. That's like it's kind of a game changer, like because the I completely understand that real estate is so different than every other form of sales because that is a massive life decision. Like it's not like, you're just selling someone a product or a certain, like it's literally like something that they're going to be living in for 20, 25, 30 years, getting married in that home, having children in that home. Like it's literally a massive, massive, monumental life decision. So it's incredible that you looked at it like that, because it's like, it's not just like, yeah, we don't
Well,
care.
it's actually bigger than that, because those days of living in them for 20 or 25 or 30 years and expiring a mortgage, they don't really exist anymore.
Oh,
So,
really?
so now, like for most people coming to Atlanta, like if you're buying a house, we're trying to figure out, if you had to sell it in 2 to 5 years, what's going to be the place that's going to gain you the most amount of appreciation during a short period of time. I mean, a long period of time, it's kind of like you're going to win no matter what. Just pick a house you like. But it's a lot more complicated than that these days, because the way people get transferred and all that stuff, like you've got to buy things that you feel like are going to create equity exceptionally fast in the real estate market,
Hmm.
because you may have to sell it. And the worst thing, the way you create clients for life in our business is when we help you make a decision and you've got to get out of it, and when you make a healthy profit, you feel pretty good about the team you had in place to achieve that. And likewise, if you had a team that didn't allow you to achieve that, that hurts.
So,
So
so it's also sort of like being a stockbroker. Like in a
yeah,
way, it's like
very much so.
yeah, you're gonna
Very
put
much
your
so.
money in something that's going to rise in value, and here's why. You know?
Well, and what I love about the real estate business compared to the stock market, because investment is I think you have to be well balanced. But I tell everybody, like, okay, so to understand the biggest difference between the stock market and the real estate market for me is, if you put if you put $100,000, well, let's call it $200,000. If you put $200,000 into a stock and it doubles, you've made $400,000 off of your two. You had a 50%, or you had 100% appreciation of your money over whatever period of time it took. They usually say the rule of 6 years, like every 6 years, or 6 or 7 years, I think they expect you to double, right?
Mhm.
So typically,
Right. And well, also too, if that house was $1 million and you bought it in a good neighborhood, chances are that by the time you've actually cleared that mortgage payment or got to a place where it was paid off, it's probably going to be worth 1.5 or 1.8 million or possibly 2
Well,
million
it
at
probably
that
is.
point.
And if you bought it as an investment, not a home to live in, now you're cash flowing on top of that appreciation and you're depreciating. I mean, the fact that you can depreciate and you can get rental income and you can get your gain on, I mean, it's a really pretty fascinating. I mean, like if your Coca-Cola stock goes down, there's really nothing you can do, right?
Oh, yeah.
But if my real estate value goes down, I can renovate the kitchen. I can paint the house. I can do landscaping. I can do put a new roof on. I can actually increase the value of my investment, unlike a lot of other investments, which
That's
makes
so
real
true.
estate kind of fun and cool to play with.
That is so true. I've always wanted to get into real estate, and I never have, but I really want to because I've never really had the money
I think you'd
until
like it.
I think I would too. I really do. And I think even recently now with the company that I have and the money that's coming in, I've been thinking about the possibility now because over the next year or two, I think I'm going to start to see enough capital where I'll be able to make a decision like that at some point. And I really wanted to do it. I have this friend, and I'd love to ask you about this because I always wanted to check its validity. Not that I didn't believe him, but you have way more experience than him. So I'd love to just ask your thoughts on this. But he said to me once, because he ended up getting into real estate. He now owns a hotel in Canada, and he's
Wow.
doing very well for himself. And he basically was like, I said, how did you end up getting into real estate? And he told me, he said, Tommy, you don't need you don't need any like credit score like or any of this, like you don't need to have a history. Like he was like, basically he said I had about 10 grand and I basically just went around and asked a bunch of people who owned apartment buildings that weren't even for sale, and I just waited until I found one landlord that was fed up with being a landlord. And I just said, sell me your apartment building. And once he said, yeah, I'll sell it to you. I don't want to do this anymore. I asked him for his income statements. I went to a bank, and off the income statements alone, they made an offer of a certain amount of money that they would give me toward it. And then I used a bridge lender for the rest of it. And the way that the calculations worked out, I was going to be making a positive cash flow off of renting out these units. And even if the cash flow was only $100 a month, it was positive cash flow. And he's like, and that's what I did. And that's how I got into the real estate. And I was like, my God, so you could literally just, you could do that? Like anybody could just do that.
You can do that.
It's
You can do
incredible.
that. Sounds like you got a smart friend. You can do that. But and there are loans now called, I think they're called DSCR loans. I'm pretty sure that's the acronym for it, but debt service something ratio, debt service to credit ratio, I think is what they're called, DSCR loans. Um, DSCR loans, like if you wanted to buy, let's say you wanted to buy a house or apartment complex, whatever it is, as long as it's got tenants in place and there's an income there, you can qualify for a mortgage just based on if the income exceeds the mortgage payment that you'd get that you'd pay for the place. So there are a lot of people that don't have to go through all the crazy amounts of qualifications that we typically have to go through to purchase real estate. With some of the DSCR loan stuff, it's just here's what I'm buying, here's what I'm buying it for. I need a loan for this. This is how much money I'm putting in. And oh, by the way, here are the tenants and here's the cash flows and here are the leases we have in place to prove that we have it. So they just take all that income and they run it through the blender. And if it's a profitable venture, you get a loan.
That's incredible. I never knew that. I'm so glad that you just said that because this is like information I really like to know. That's probably why so many people in real estate don't like the fact that, because I live in Los Angeles and here we have rent control, because
Yes,
rent control and the way that that works is going to eventually make it so that the money from the renting tenants does not exceed the amount you need to cover those mortgages.
that's correct.
That makes perfect sense now.
That's correct. Yeah, yeah, that's correct.
Wow.
But
So
you've got in every market, you've got places like um, duplexes or triplexes or quadplexes, for example. And I tell people all the time, like if you can get a job and save some money and you can go find a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex that you would live in, you go take one of the units and you let the income from the other one or two or three units cover your mortgage entirely or in part, you now have you now have a fantastic asset that other people are paying for, and you can easily replace yourself as a tenant and move on to a single family home if you want to over time as that asset builds equity and it continues to spin off cash flow and profits for you. Pretty interesting.
That is interesting. And that's something that even off podcast, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to ask you more about that.
Oh yeah, sure. It's a smart move.
A hundred
Smart move.
percent. That's something I'd really love to get into. But then there's the other side of it. This is something I definitely wanted to make sure I asked you about, because there is the success that you can get through stuff like this and through real estate and flipping real estate and all this. But I want to tell you a little bit of a story that back in the day when I was living in Portland, Maine, we're talking like late 90s, early 2000s. It was such a wonderful city. It had grit. And everywhere you went, it was like you had really good, real folks, hardworking people. It was kind of like kind of reminded me of like what I imagined Philadelphia was like in the 80s. It just had that sort of like, grit. And then as real estate started to get bought up and it started to get gentrified and coffee shops and microbreweries and like all these sort of things, which, obviously I'm okay with anybody having financial success, but it started to drive the cost of living up so high, as we all know, that a lot of the ordinary folks who live there had to leave, it is what it is. But then it started to get to the point where the downtown shows that we used to do in the Old Port and the Old Port Festival that happened every year and the fireworks display that happened on the 4th of July and all these amazing things that really made the city culturally what it was were being shut down, shut down, shut down. It was like they suddenly started to roll up the sidewalks because they're like, we just don't want anything ever to happen again in this town, so real estate continues to keep going up. And I felt like it sucked the life completely out of that city to the point where now there's no one even really who lives there. The whole city is basically one giant Airbnb. It's mainly just a tourist attraction, and nobody who's there has lived there beyond 5 years ago, or mostly they're visiting. And I want to know is like, what are your thoughts on like that negative side, and do you have any sort of ideas on solutions in some kind of way, if there are any at all, to be able to benefit from real estate and to be able to let communities rise up and make wealth become something that people can obtain without without killing a city or without killing. Is that like a possibility? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's possible. I mean, I think every city's got their own unique Rubik's Cube to solve. I think, one of the things that I see that's problematic out there is as real estate prices increase. Now, granted, you have wages increasing and that sort of stuff, but now we've got to get interest rates down to get people back in the game because the real estate market is just basically constipated everywhere right now. It wants to move, but it can't move, and people it's constipated. It's the best word for it. And I think interest rates are a big part of it. I think consumer confidence is another one. I think our industry pretty much runs more on consumer confidence than interest rates, which most people don't ever talk about. But we've had interest rates go down, and real estate sales haven't really done that much in reaction to it. But I think, with AI coming in and that sort of thing, I think a lot of people are worried. Am I going to lose my job? Or am I in an industry that AI is going to take over and I'm going to get a pink slip? Or the tariffs that are going on, or the tariffs going to impact my business? And I think there's a lot of just confidence that's lacking in the marketplace overall. That's one issue. But in turn, I've seen, like, for example, we have a place in Maine, as you know, and
Yeah. Yeah.
We've had a place on the Gulf of Mexico down in the Panhandle of Florida in a nice area. But where you have areas with affluence, um, they're struggling because real estate prices are up. It's one thing if people can't buy homes, and that's always been the case. Some people can buy, some people can't. That's always the case. But when you also couple that, typically you have, if you have rising prices, you have lowering rents, or if you have raising rents, you have lowering real estate prices, and they kind of act as a little bit of a counterbalance. And but for the last number of years, like they've both gone up.
Mm.
Like real estate prices have gone up, rent's gone up, everything's gone. I have landscapers outside. I don't know if you can hear them, but they seem to be.
Oh, I can't. I
But
can't.
okay, good, great. But you've got when you've got the people that actually have to work in the restaurants that you want to eat at, or work at the car shops, you need your car fixed, or go to the movie theater where somebody needs to, take your ticket and sell you popcorn and all that stuff. And they can't afford to live where they work, and they get further and further and further away, then you have less reliable workforce everywhere, and you have businesses that are not wowing customers anymore because they don't have the staff to wow customers, and they're just trying to get by and make ends meet. I mean, it's
Yeah.
we've got to find an affordable housing solution for just the community so that the workforce can show up to support the community and create people that want to still come in and open businesses and buy houses and be consumers in a local economy. Because if we don't have that, they just get boarded up and they become, just ghost towns. So
Yeah.
I really want, and I think it's a huge problem. I do wonder with the Bezoses and the Musks of the world, like if there weren't a way for communities to say, listen, if you'll buy land and build apartment complexes that you will maintain rent control in these, so they're for the blue collar workers in our area. We won't tax your property, and you won't have to pay taxes on the gains of your property when you sell it one day, or just come up with something economically where their money is doing good, and yet they're not tossing it out the window for charity, but it's actually a good business play for them on the back end for doing something good for communities on a local immediate thing that can sustain itself. I don't know how that happens. I'm sure there are smarter people than I am that could figure that out, but I think there's a lot of people around the world that have money, or you get these black rocks that are consuming, the real estate business. One of the big problems is so many of these hedge funds are buying properties because they see real estate as a huge investment. They bought a lot in that downturn we were talking about earlier,
Hmm.
that and realize, shit, when you buy real estate really when it's really depressed, you can make a killing when it bounces back.
Right.
And I think we're seeing that now for sure again. But I think you've got people that are real estate's on their radar screen from a business portfolio standpoint. And if you could create a way to appeal to their human nature of allowing being the catalyst that create change for affordable housing in cities, I think it'd be a pretty cool concept.
Yeah, I agree. I know right now there's a couple issues. Like one, there's people will go and say we want to make an affordable housing development, and then like there's certain laws around. I don't know exactly the nuances of all of this because I know every state is different, but I know that they'll go and they'll say, hey, we want to make an affordable a housing complex, and then they'll get a huge tax write-off, and they'll get all these benefits of like building this unit, and then they'll only make one small section of it affordable, and then sell the rest as high-end condos, or do
Right.
whatever to be able to make even more profit off of it. There's that, and then there's also people that are making. There's a ton of money to leave a unit vacant because now there's this whole thing where if you have a vacant unit and you want to have people apply to move into it, you can actually have a fee, an application fee. And with the amount of people that are paying the application fee to move into the unit, you're making more money on application fees and denying people than you would be if you rented the unit. So
That
there's,
sounds a little bit, that sounds a little far-fetched to me though.
oh, well, I mean, well, again, you would know more than me. These are just
I mean,
things that
it
I've heard.
sounds a little bit like an urban legend tale. So, I
Oh,
mean,
really? Okay.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think people are going to, if your business model is based on making application fees on a vacant house, you've lost your fucking mind,
Okay. Okay.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's really about getting rents and making profit and maintaining a property. But yeah, I don't, I mean, I don't really have the answer to that. It's a very complex problem. I feel like there are some components to the business world that probably exist. And if somebody could find a way to marry them from taxation to wealthy companies or people or businesses and just creating something with, I mean, look, with all the things that are going on politically right now to try to figure out how to create more money for people and less penalties for doing things, it seems like you could
Mm.
probably get super creative around affordable housing. If we're going to start figuring out a way to allow people to make more money, let's figure out a way for them to do good while they're doing it. And maybe we can support that. And
Yeah.
just from a taxation standpoint.
No, that's very, very true. There does seem to be a lot of like a lot of penalties um that affect creative ideas and solutions and all kinds of things.
Well, the
Um
problem is it's just too complicated. There's so many barbs on every issue that, if you're gonna do something good for John, well, what about Mary? And well, okay, we can get Mary figured out, but what about Sue? And then it's like everybody's like, there's no, it's like when you squeeze the balloon, you think you've squeezed it out there, but it just blew up in another end, and now you're just you're playing whack-a-mole with an issue at all times. And it's, just when you think you've got that sucker licked, he pops up again, and you're like, damn, you got to hit it over there. And you just can't quite get it. It's just, it's just, it's crazy. It's almost like the comments we were talking about earlier with like staying away from political stuff. Like, it's like you try to do good and solve something, and you've got somebody yelling at you because you're not thinking about the guy that lives on the other side of the street that has whatever. And you're like, I wasn't thinking about that guy. And I don't know that he fits into this equation, but I can solve it for 100 other people. And I don't know. And
right.
are we playing the numbers appropriately or not? I don't know the answer to that.
Right. Yeah, I don't you're right. I don't really think anybody does, to be completely honest. I wanted to ask you something about AI because I'm wanting to know. I read something the other day where somebody made some comment about, he was like something about real estate agents are going to be useless pretty soon, or like or something like that, and I was like,
Now,
is that true? Like,
humans may be useless soon.
there's
Truthfully, I mean, it's like
yeah.
I don't think anybody is. Kathy Wood, the female investment person lady that she's probably, I guess she's probably the most successful female investor of all time, and she runs those funds. I was listening to something that she was on a few months ago, I guess. I can't remember what it was I was listening to. It was probably I listen to CNBC all the time, and it was probably an interview. But her point is well taken. It's like, it's change is happening all the time. It always has, right? And every time it happens, whether it was the computer or the cell phone or the internet, or I mean, like, it's all doom and gloom, right? Change is always met with doom and gloom.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I mean, if you're paying, somebody said once that, experience really isn't the asset, or as valuable as people like to claim it is. But experience evaluated is where the value is. Like, just
Right.
because you lived through it, if you lived through it and you didn't look at it and try to figure shit out, then your experience means nothing. But if you lived through it and tried to figure out how to make sure that never happens again, or what was it that made that different, and how do I live my next 10 years with my eyes wide open so that if that ever happens, I take advantage of it like I didn't the last time, or I stay on whatever. Kathy Woods was saying, you can always be on the right side of change. and you can always be on the wrong side of change. And
It's
the
true.
and when it comes to change, the question that has to always be asked is, how do we stay on the right side of change? How do we use change like a tool that's a hammer that we hold in our hand and use for ourselves, or it can also be a tool like a steamroller that rolls the hell over you.
Yeah.
But you have to be committed to be on the right side of change. So the question, like when people say that, it's number one, I don't know whether it's going to, but I think it's going to create a lot of changes for our industry. And I think it's going to a lot of changes for a lot of other industries. But I think those, and my guess is like anything else, there are going to be people that don't adapt appropriately, either enough or soon enough to be on the right side of change, and they get rolled over. And they can complain about how AI ruined their life and whatever it is. And then you're going to have other people that were all along going, how do we stay ahead of this? How do we use this for our advantage? How do we add value to ourselves by our ability to use this in our business? How do we create a mechanism for us to be able to use AI so that it benefits the customers and creates more value for us as professionals when they hire us? Those questions result in you being on the right side of change, not on the wrong side of change. So my guess is the person that's saying this is going to do all that and make that obsolete, it's probably true for a percentage of our industry. It's always been true for a percentage of any industry when change comes
When
along. I mean,
change comes
look
along.
at
Yeah.
freaking Blockbuster, right? I mean, they were probably the most easy, you know, greatest example of and there's a zillion of them, but I mean, it's like, it's changing people. It's changing people. It's changing people. They're not going to go to your store and pick out a fucking video when they can sit in their home and click a button and download it.
You know what's fun?
Get on board.
You know what's funny about you saying that? At the time that Netflix came out, I was living in San Diego working at Blockbuster's corporate headquarters store. I had a job at Blockbuster, and that was where literally the vice president of the company had an office at this store location. It was like
Right.
a corporate location. And so I remember they were doing some remodeling one day, and I came in and I said, "What are you guys doing?" They're like, we're revamping. We decided what we're going to do is we're going to turn Blockbuster into a coffee shop where people are going to come in and drink coffee and watch movies. We're going to have these TVs and like people are going to, and I remember just thinking to myself, because with Netflix, they were trying to like innovate. And I remember right then and there, I was thinking to myself, like, no one's going to fucking do that.
That's right.
No one's going to do
That's
that.
right.
And that was called being on the wrong side of change. A
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I mean, that's like, yeah, a prime example.
Yeah. So you just kind of look at it. And I think one of the advantages of living long enough is, and it's, I'm 56 this year, and it's, you do look back and you do see things and you want to tell your kids how to approach things. And it's, it all matters if you're paying attention. It's you're always going to have people that pull their covers over their head, and always going to have, in my book I wrote about the fact that it's not misery that loves company, it's mediocrity. And everybody who's
Wow.
mediocre, they love company. They want the biggest party on the block. And it's
Yeah.
the people that are kind of lonely that are out there. It's you got to be just crazy enough to go do things that not everybody else would do. And you'll end up on the right side of change. But if you I tell everybody that the word average is the word you can substitute for average. If you understand what the definition of average is, average just means most people are average because they're most people, right? I mean, it's like that's average. I mean, you take the best, the worst, and everything in between, and you lump it into one pot. That's called average.
Right.
That's called most of the data you're looking at is average. And then you have outliers that are really, really shitty, and you have outliers that are really, really successful. But to be either one of those, you have to swim harder than most people. And you've got to think like most people don't think. And so,
It's
just
true.
like when you were in Blockbuster and you heard people started going, yeah, we're gonna have coffee in Blockbusters now, and we're gonna kind of pivot and do something really, really crazy. Well, that's either genius or stupid,
Exactly.
right? And some people, the human suppositories of Blockbuster were probably cheering that on, thinking, I'm just gonna ride this sucker as far as I can ride this wave. And then there were people who were like, these people have lost their fucking mind. I'm out of here. I'm
Exactly.
going to work for Redbox,
Right. Exactly. At the
right?
time, yeah, red box. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Redbox. And then
Yeah.
those people were probably like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go to work for Netflix now. This seems to be the new kid on the block, right? And it's, there were people on the right side of that change, and there were people that got crushed by change.
It's.
And
Oh,
that will always be the case.
I 100% agree with you. I will tell you this. This is something that that kind of blows people's mind a little bit. Is that I, as you, I think you know, I'm in the magazine industry. I mean, I
Right.
have a national magazine,
I know.
and I've had people. I pivoted because my thinking was like when people zigzag, right? So everybody's going into tech, future tech, robots, machines, whatever. And I was like, I'm going to go into magazines. And I know it seemed crazy. And I've had a lot of people, believe me, I've had so many people be like, magazines, is that even a thing? I mean, with the internet and with computers and like we have ChatGPT and you're talking about magazines. But then I go to Maine every summer and I've got a friend of mine that I rent a room from when I'm there. And she's got kids and her daughter's in high school. And whenever I'm there, she'll say to me, hey, it's the weekend. Can you give me a ride to Barnes and Noble? Me and my friends are going to Barnes and Noble. I'm like, amazing. What are you going to Barnes and Noble for? Well, that's what we do. We like to hang out at Barnes and Noble. We'll do our homework there on the weekends and all this stuff. And I'm sitting
Wow.
there, and then I'm noticing
Wow.
Barnes and Noble's coming out with a new store every other day. And I was talking to this guy that owns this news or distribution company here in California, where they own the Beverly Hills newsstand. They distribute to all these different places, and he just told me, he said magazines are exploding. He's like, it's kind of crazy, but we've been seeing a massive influx. And he goes, and the crazy part is because everybody abandoned it, not only because of technology, but then COVID and the cost of wood and all this. He's like, it's actually an easy business to break into. And he goes, and the people that get into it right now on the ground floor, when it gets back to its successful set of numbers that like it used to be, he's like, it's going to be almost impossible to get into, and a lot of people are going to be wishing that they got into it at the time when they could have. And I'm like, okay, like, and I'm like fully on board with this, even though I have a lot of naysayers that keep telling me, yeah, man, that's crazy, like technology and all this stuff. But I do believe that there's going to be and is a young generation right now that simply is super anti-tech. And they look at their parents on the phone all day, zombied out on the phone all day, and kids never want to be their parents, and they're just going, I don't want to do that. I want to go fishing. I want to go hike a mountain. Like, I don't want to be on a computer all day. And it's really kind of creating a trend of people that are. So I'm not saying that tech will disappear or that it'll like revert completely, but I just always believe there'll be a Waymo for people that don't want to ride in a car with somebody, and there'll be an Uber for people that want to ride in the car with somebody, and then there'll be cars for people that just want to drive themselves, and they'll just create options. I don't think anything's going to replace anything,
Yeah,
if that makes.
it's nothing. Well, look, nothing ever really goes away, right? Like magazines haven't gone away.
Right.
Like people that were running bad businesses making magazines went away. But if you can find I've got um, there's a guy here in Atlanta. His name's Pat Flood, and he's a friend of mine, and he started a lending company called Home Bank years ago. And on my birthday in 2007, Home Bank was a huge supporter of our real estate company at the time. And on my birthday, August 7th of 2007, I think, um, the news that morning was that Home Bank went out of business that day.
Mm,
And I was like, what? And that was the big shoe that dropped that signaled shit's getting real, right?
mhm.
And
Wow.
years later, Pat reinvented and he started a new company called Supreme Lending. And Home Bank was this big corporate thing. They were going public. They were going to go public, and they had these office buildings, and they had all this stuff, and they were having all this fun and spending all this money, and they had all these people. And if you talk to Pat today, he'd be like, okay, so I reinvented myself and I stopped spending like an idiot and we stopped doing all the cushy corporate, crazy things. And now I'm running a mortgage company that's lean and mean and not all for show. And he's crushing it. I think he's more successful now than he ever was with Home Bank by keeping his overhead low. And I think you've got whether it's that, your Waymo thing is well taken. That's a good point. My stepson Jacob, like this is an 18-year-old kid, and you know what he's into right now? Vinyl,
Right, exactly.
right?
Right.
And I'm like,
Yep.
wow. I was like, I used to have that album. He's like, no. I'm like, yeah. And like we talk about all this stuff, and like now he's bought a turntable and he's got some speakers. And I'm like, it's so funny. We went from like these car-sized stereo systems down to like these mini iPads or iPods or whatever they're called. And now like we're blowing up again, and we're going back to the and it's not going to eliminate anything. Spotify is still going to be fine, right? It's
Yep.
going to be fine. But it's kind of cool and it's kind of nichey and it's I think anytime you've got the opportunity to provide a service to a niche, you can crush it. Your business model just has to support it. But I don't think, and this is where I think people like to, I think people, for lack of understanding, like to paint good or bad with a broad brush. And you look at it and you go, okay, so just like your friend, like, AI is going to take real estate away. It's like, it's not. It's not. It will crush some people. It will crush some people, right? But it's not. And it's in the magazine industry is not what it used to be, size wise. But
Hmm.
my guess is there's some people making every bit as much money in the magazines they do than the way most people did back in the day. But all the other people didn't have the guts to stick with it or reinvent themselves or change their economic model. It's just you have to. I've always told people like if you want to like from a business standpoint, like if you're intimidated by like income statements and balance sheets, the way you start to learn is you look at them and you just say, why is that number that number? And if you just ask those questions, there are answers, there's stories behind those numbers. You just have to ask about it. And it's kind of like business and anything else. It's so if you could create a magazine
Hmm.
company that would freaking crush it, there's a book called The Aladdin Factor, and I read it probably 20 something years ago, but I'll save you the read. But the Aladdin Factor's big point is the size of your questions determines the size of your answers.
Wow.
So if you ask a big enough question, you'll get a big enough answer. But if you don't ask any questions, the shitty life you're living is because you haven't asked any questions of yourselves, of your people, or your life, or your business, or your body. You just ask better questions and you'll get better answers. So it's and the people that, I've never been somebody in business that does a touchdown dance because I believe that it can all disappear tomorrow. And there's no reason to be going, I'm number one. Well, that's great. You're number one today because in 20 years, nobody's going to know who the fuck you are anyway. So just shut up and sit down. That's kind of my
Exactly.
mentality. So it's just, you just have to stay humble and you have to ask questions. And if you ask the right questions, you'll find the right answers. They're out there, but most people don't like to ask the questions and they like to paint with a broad brush. And if you really get in there, it's kind of like what Tiger Woods said a long time ago that, it's golf is brain surgery to me. Because people always say, it's not like it's brain surgery. He's like, well, golf isn't brain surgery, but I treat it like brain surgery for me. And because of that, I'm looking at every little detail in every little thing that could set, the turn of a golf club or the strike or the point or the friction or the angle or the this or the wet or the dry or the heat or the everything is a factor in how that golf ball takes off of the edge of a club. And if you understand that and you make it your life's mission, you can figure it out better than anybody else can figure it out. And it's brain surgery for you. And if you do the same thing with magazines and I do the same thing with real estate and I look at all the components of it and figure out where could we make little tweaks and things that would make massive differences, God, we can rule the world.
That's incredible, incredible advice. I have a situation right now. We have Gordon Ramsay on the cover of our magazine, and obviously he's the most famous chef in the world. And
Sure.
so we kind of, for the past couple of years, we had to revert from printing because of everything that happened post COVID. And I've been
Sure.
trying to get back out there and get back, distribution. And to be able to, and obviously, I don't want to have Gordon on the cover and not capitalize on that. So I'm like, this is the time. The time is now that we need to get back on the shelves, because 95% of all magazine sales are an impulse buy and they're based on the cover. And, there's nothing in the world that's going to intrigue somebody to buy a food and travel magazine than having Gordon Ramsay on the cover. So if we're going to do this and get back out there, now's the time to do it. But from a capital standpoint, to be able to do what we needed to do, I was in a position where I need to borrow about 20 grand. So I started looking at how I could, how I could try to make that happen. I had this investor tell me, he's kind of an investor. He invested in me in the past with some things, but he was like, look, I'll tell you what, I'll be able to give you the money, by, first week of October, get all your distribution figured out, and I'll be able to get you squared away. So I did. I got all the distribution figured out. And I mean, I was on the phone every day, calling every distributor, Hudson News, like talking to everybody, dealing with printers, dealing with shipping, trying to get costs down, trying to get everything. Barnes and Noble said, we'll let you in the store if you can get your costs down below this amount of money. And I'm like, okay. So that was an uphill battle, but I got it all figured out. And then the guy kind of pulled the rug out from under me and said, I'm not going to be able to do it. And I was like, okay, no big deal. You can't do it. I got to figure out a way. So then I tried to go to a lending company, and they wanted to charge me $11,000 to borrow $20,000. Or no, not even 20. It was $11,000 to borrow 16. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Like that's insane. Like that, like there's no way I'm going to do that. So I was like, so now I'm kind of at a point right now where I decided that I'm going to literally put myself in this company into a major risk to do this. And I'm about to roll the biggest roll of dice of my life. And I don't care. I'm like, win, lose, or fail, here it goes. Because we might put those things out, and who knows, maybe there's a 25% national sell-through rate as a bottom. So maybe that happens and we lose a little bit of money, but I don't care about that because we make our money with ad sales anyways. Or we get shocked and we have this crazy 75% sell-through rate, and this turns out to be the greatest business decision that I ever did with this company. I have no idea, but I could tell you that if I applied the logic that you just said to every aspect of it, from trying to get it printed to the cost of the shipping to the warehouse percentages, and asking why those percentages are those percentages, why it's costing me this much to have this many magazines printed, what is the result? Is the bulk of this cost covering your commissions, your fees for doing this deal? Like, where are we at here? I probably maybe could have lessened that risk a great deal. And so I guess, and it's okay. I didn't get to apply that logic for this because it's past. Maybe I could still apply it for the next time I call them up. But the idea is that you just made me, with that asking questions behind every number, that is like one of the best pieces of advice, like the best pieces of advice I ever heard in my life. And that's going to be how I operate moving forward. Because I bet you, I just found out recently that someone told me that in car insurance, 80% of what you're paying for car insurance is the commission fees of the agent.
Probably.
And I was like, oh my God. So that is like, I don't know, I'm just super grateful for that advice.
Let me ask you this. So I'm listening to this, and I'm listening to this problem that you're having, and trying to figure that out on your own. What, and I look at leverage as systems, tools, or people. So what leverage do you have that you employ to help you through those moments where you're trying to figure something out as the leader of your company?
Um, yeah, well, I guess I hope I'm answering this question correctly. Because you used the word leverage.
Yep.
So I guess like you're asking me like what resources am I using to be able to do it, right? So
Not necessarily financial, just systems, tools, or people.
I'm using a lot of AI. That's for
Good.
sure.
That was the answer I was looking for.
100%.
Let's let's talk about how you're using AI because that's really where I was going with that.
Sure. I have gone. I realized that ChatGPT has a memory system. I don't think enough people take advantage of it. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And if you use its memory system, you can actually upload entire PDF documents and literally as many as you want. You could upload 4,000 pages. And if you organize data and ask it to memorize it and store that data forever, it will, right? So
Right.
I've been doing that with my food and travel company, period. So it knows
Good.
every single aspect of who our market is, who our target consumer is, our customer profile, our brand, what it's all about, what we're doing, everything about it. And when I have a problem and I'll ask it, now I'm trying to get distribution. Give me the names and numbers of every single person who I need to talk to, every website of every company that does distribution, like a background about that company. I'll get all that information and I'll have this list of numbers. And then I'm like, okay, now I know the people to call. Then I have certain things that I use. I have this service that I pay for that gives me anybody's phone number that I want. And I love it because I'm not afraid to call anybody. I will literally
Good
call
for
the
you.
executive vice president of a Fortune 500 company, be like, my name's Thommy Kane, and you need to listen to me for 5 minutes. That's me. You know what I mean? Whatever it takes to get it done. But that's how I've been doing it. And I had this guy that owns Heavy Metal Magazine. I met him a couple of days ago, and he said to me, he goes, well, usually the distributor will be the one that's trying to get you into these retail places. Why are you making the calls yourself? You don't have to do that. The distributor. And I'm like, well, I don't know. All I know is that I was like, I want to be in that store. I'm going to find out who I talk to get in that store, and I'm going to call them up and sell my magazine myself. I'm not going to have some distribution company do it. I'll just do it myself. And he was like, how are you getting those people on the phone? He couldn't even fathom, and I'm like, I'm in sales, my guy. My job is to get people on the phone. Like, that's what I do. But those are the resources that I'm leveraging ultimately is that. And then
So
also,
have you with the situation you were talking about with the thing that you're trying to get it and you're the Gordon Ramsay and the $20,000, have you plugged all that into a chat or a Gemini or there's another one I'm using called Manus. If you haven't looked at it, you should look at it. Manus. It's more complex task type stuff. But have you put like all of that? Have you just done a brain dump into like that situation, that bubble of a situation with the 20,000 that and put it all in there and say, based on this and what my goal is, I really want this to be the goal. These are the issues I'm having. These are the deficits I'm having financially. These are the things I have in my corner. If you take this entire shit show of a puzzle, knowing what I want to get out of it, what do I do?
I have. And believe it or not, I have. Like I'm one of those people that I'm up
Good.
till 2 o'clock in the morning
Because
on
Jerry and I
ChatGPT.
were talking the other night. Where Jerry and I were talking about, it's shocking to us how many people are not using this tool. Like they're playing around with it. But like you have the brightest person on the planet ready to work for you for $20 a month.
Yeah, no,
And every time you say I don't like your answer, give me another one. It's like saying, "Thank you, sir. I'll have another. Thank you, sir. I'll have another." And you just in it's the greatest employee that has no attitude, only wants to please you, only wants to give you what you want. And if you send them back to the drawing board 10 different times, it's going to say, "Okay, I'll be right back. Let me revise that and I'll get that right back to your desk." And it's fascinating to me. But have you gone to it and said, have you gone to the links to say, chat? I call mine Alfred, by the way. I just said I'm going to call you Alfred because Batman always had Alfred, and Alfred made him look good. So I say, Alfred, Here's what I need to. I'm going to promote you to the CEO of my company, and you're now the CEO. And I am just going to be the boots on the ground president, but you're going to be the person calling all the shots to help me run the company and based on the goals that I think we can achieve. But you're gonna start. So what do you need from me to be the most effective CEO you can be? I've uploaded all my financials. I've uploaded all our bank
God.
accounts. I've uploaded everything. I've uploaded our customer base. I hear all the reports and the data and the statistics and the whatever based on the performance of this business over the last 6 months, over the last year, over the last 3 years. Here's everything I've got to deal with as the CEO of my company. I am now demoting myself to president and I am promoting you to the CEO. And I need you to tell me what you would do and what game plan you would want to run as the CEO of this business for the next 3, 6, 9, and 12 months.
Okay, so first of all, you just completely made my brain explode right now. This is great. This is the thing. I already fed it all the stuff you were talking
It's
about.
got all your stuff, it sounds like.
But I've never asked it that question, and that's going to be something I do probably right after I get done doing this podcast, because
Well,
that is an
here's the
amazing thing to ask it.
It's amazing. But make sure you say, is it what other information do you need from me to do your job in the most effective way possible so that we can run the most profitable business in the history of magazine, whatever. And just charge it. Now, what most people struggle with the AI is, everybody's talking about the prompts. Like everywhere you go on the thing, it's like here are the perfect prompts, here are the whatever prompts. And I'm just going, this is silly to me because I think, and my secret weapon on AI and prompting is I give it everything I want to give it, and then the last thing I do is say, based on everything I've given you and what I want to achieve, tell me what the perfect prompt is for you
Yeah, yeah, I've done
to give
that.
me what I need. And then it'll
Exactly.
say, oh, well, based on everything, the perfect prompt would be blah, 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 blah. And I copy it and I paste it as my reply.
Yeah,
And that's my prompt.
I've
And then
yeah.
he gives me everything I need.
Yeah, I mean this is I've done that. I've actually done that with pictures where I needed a picture and then I found a few different images and I'd upload them and I'd say, based on these images, this is kind of what I'm going for, but I want this, this, and this, and this, and this. What would be the exact perfect prompt from you to be able to create that picture? And it writes me the prompt, I copy paste it, and then boom, I get an image that's exactly exact. Especially because now they're uploading or they're implementing regulatory measures on their own software because they're worried about lawsuits with Disney and a whole bunch of other stuff. So now there's certain words you can't use, certain things you can't ask for because they're too close to something that might already be. So a lot of times asking it to give you the prompt is perfect because it will bypass all that. You're not going to sit there and be battling it all day trying to get it. It might say, "Oh, I can't do that for you," or "This is too close." Just tell me what I need to say to you, and then it tells you.
It tells you.
Exactly.
It tells you. We bought a boat. We bought a boat this year. We traded in our old boat, and it was kind of a hair. We didn't plan on it, and this guy was trying to get us to get a new boat, and I didn't really know, and I'm not really an experienced boat buyer. And so I took the stickers for the boat, like the sticker in the car window. They've got them for boats too, the whole whatever. I just uploaded the two things, and and I was like, help me out here. This is what this guy's sending me. He's like, well, it looks like you're trying to buy, and just a picture of the sticker. It's like, well, based on this on the pictures, these are stickers for boats for whatever. These are the models. These are whatever. Here's what I can tell you about this boat. Here's what I can tell you about this boat. You should be able to get a better deal on this boat, and here's why. The whole nine yards. It was like based off a picture of the sticker. Nuts.
Wow. No,
Nuts.
that's yeah. I mean it's really really insane what I've used this thing for and what it's done. Like I ended up in talks with Apple. They're actually the reason why we have Gordon Ramsay on the cover. They're the reason why we've had a couple people on the cover. They keep coming to us wanting to promote various food shows and things that they have on their Apple TV. And so at one point they were asking me about like, well, how could you put together like an advertisement for Apple Pay? And I said, well, this is what I would do. And I told them like, how we could partner with some influencers and stuff that we have under contract to be able to do some things with them. And then they were like, well, what's your audience profile? And I was like, And at the time I'm like, this is about like, I want to say a little under 2 years ago. I went, Audience profile. I've never really thought of that. But
Human?
I
Human.
yeah, people. Exactly. And I'm like, huh. So then I was like, I said, and they were like, do you have like a thing you could send us that out like lays out your whole customer profile and all that? And I just lied. Yeah, of course. Then as soon as I got done with them, I was like, ChatGPT.
How do I get a human profile?
And then it was like, and then of course it, one of the things I like to do too is I like to, the more, as you know, the more information you give it, the more accurate its answers are. I love the people that are like, yeah, ChatGPT is wrong though. You'll ask it, and I'm like, okay, if it's wrong, you're doing it wrong because you're using it as Google. You're just asking it to look something up, and it can be wrong if whatever it's sourced on the internet is wrong. But if you're feeding it information and then asking it to give you answers based on that data, it can't be wrong. I have done when I was doing the lending thing that I'm never going to do because they're insane with the 72% interest rates and they're nuts. I figured out a lot about because I asked him, I was like, what is your, what are your policies in terms of what you can loan? And he was giving me this information. Well, it's based on this and that, and your percentage of what you made this many months and this. So I just grabbed all my income statements and just dumped them into ChatGPT while I'm talking to him. And I just asked it really fast. Can you give me this number, that number, and this number based on these income statements? And it went in like 2 seconds. And then I'm talking to him and I'm like, okay, so basically you can give me a loan for X amount of dollars because these are these numbers. And he's just like, well, he's like, I don't know. I mean, it's going to, we have to look at it and this and that. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, those are the numbers because they just, right. I know what they are now in 2 seconds.
That's right.
I mean, it's, it does seem to be the best time in the world to be an entrepreneur. If you're not using it to like figure out a way to succeed at anything right now, you're absolutely out of your mind.
You're missing it.
Yeah.
And I just, people will say, well, it's not accurate, and I go, no, it's not entirely accurate. I was like, but however, it's getting more accurate by every day. So there's going to be a day soon when your defense of it's not accurate isn't accurate.
Exactly.
Right. So it's like we're in the horse and buggy days of AI. As cool as it is, it's a covered freaking wagon being pulled by a mule.
Yep. Yeah, that's
a great far from it being a rocket ship.
That's a great way of saying it. One of my friends, George, he has my favorite AI quote ever. We were just sitting around in a room talking, and he said this to me, and I said, dude, that's so incredible. He said, it's not AI right now that's going to take your job. It's the kid who figures out how to use AI to do your job that's going to take your job.
That's right. Well, they're saying that in the real estate industry. They say AI is not going to replace you in your job. Agents that are using AI are going to replace you. And again, it just goes back to you're either going to be on the right side of it or you're going to be on the wrong side of it. And there will be people on both sides of the coin. You just need to fight like hell to make sure you're on the right side of it.
Man, that is so true, man. It's unbelievable. I can't believe like how good this conversation has been. Like, I love walking away with like I learned something. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I feel like all we've done is just talk about life, which is kind of fun. This is cool.
Yeah. I kind of like it to be like that. Just because I like it to be chill and not feel so like sterile. Just two people having a conversation. But like at the end of the day, it's like, like I think I know I told Jerry this about you, but I really was like impressed with you the moment I met you, just because like, you have this sort of energy when you walk into a room that really feels like, like you exhibit to me like what a man is like, and I mean that like literally,
wow,
like the way that you carry yourself, you know what I mean?
Wow. Thank you.
And I told Jerry that like I was like, that's like the kind of, because not only because you're successful in business, you're also, you're trying to be the best father you can be, you're trying to be the best husband you can be, you're trying to like, you're exhibiting all of these sort of traits that I feel like, I mean, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of the issues we have today with masculinity.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
I'm sure that
another podcast. That's another podcast.
That's another whole podcast. But it is you kind of sort of exemplify that. So I'm super happy to have had you come on and to be able to just have a conversation with you about this stuff. And I have so many questions that I would love to ask you about real estate. Just not even like podcasts. Just like if I ever have
Sure.
a question, I'd love to ask you, because that is something that is the next phase of my life that I'm trying to get into as soon as I'm able, capital wise.
Yeah, no. It's you let me know. I know the best people pretty much everywhere around the country, and if there's somebody you need to be in business with that'll help you get what you want locally, I will find them for you.
Oh man, that would be
And I
so.
will. And anytime you have a question about real estate, Jerry or I are more than happy to. She's smarter than I am, so between the two of us, we can come up with a decent answer. I'm pretty sure.
Well, at the end of every one of my shows, I
Yeah.
always ask the guest two questions. One is the question that the previous guest told me to ask you, and then you have to
Oh,
give me a question for the next guest.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So the previous guest, wonderful guy, Joshua Weinstein, very, very incredible human being. He told me to ask you, where do you get your passion from?
Ooh. You know what? I think that I like to think that I'm a person that's always paid attention, which is why I get frustrated as a father when you're trying to help your children and they don't want to listen to you. Because it's like, dude, if you would just pay attention, I swear I know what I'm talking about, and you think I don't know what I'm talking about, but I promise you I do. Um, I've always been somebody who has paid attention, and I've just been impacted, like where you started this show and talked about like all the people that you're grateful for that have crossed your path. You realize that you can make a difference in people's life. I mean, like, and Mother Teresa taught us you don't have to be a successful business person to make a difference in somebody's life. All you have to do is give a shit. And
Wow.
like I said earlier, I mean, you can lose your income, you can lose your health, you can lose anything. And if you live long enough, you've seen examples all over the place of all of those things. And it's awful, but it's the most awful thing is when you lose everything and you realize you never poured into anybody or left a legacy or helped anybody and I just, no matter whether I'm successful or not, I definitely want to make sure that my life has been something worth living for other people. Like I want to love what I do. It's why I wrote this book called Effortless, right?
Yeah.
I wrote it because I wanted, if nobody else bought that book, I wanted my children to know what I felt like was important to live a great life and how to take care of yourself and how not to give a shit about what other people say and all the things that kind of in some way or another we've kind of touched on a little bit today. But that's a great question because I really do think it's just it's not about the money. It's about the impact you have, and when you have the opportunity. And I loved running our company because I could see every day, like when you're on the ground and you're running a company every day, it's kind of fun because I tell everybody it's like when you run your own company, not many people live in a position where they get to choose who they work with or who they don't. Like I say, I like you, come to work here. I don't like you, go fuck yourself. Like it's not many people have that power. And when you have that power and you bring people in and you like the party, it's an invitation only party, and you get to just infect people with your energy and your mindset and your knowledge and your wisdom, and they love you for it. It's awesome. It's like when you have people that go, "I love your podcast. I love what you're doing. Your magazine's amazing. You have no idea. You saved me this much money when I went to Greece, and you did this." And I'm like, I never forgot the fact that you did this and that song you wrote when you rapped and you whatever and like all that. Like when you get that feedback, it's like, yes. how do I do more? How do I have more people going, what you did mattered to me? How do I get more people to say, what you did mattered to me? What you do matters to me. You make a difference in my life. And I started coaching people 3 years ago, and I never thought I'd like coaching because of I like speaking and giving keynote addresses and going and throwing a Molotov cocktail in the room and walking out. Like I love doing that. But it turns out I love coaching people, like and helping them run their businesses better and helping them because you're part therapist, you're part coach, you're part parent, you're part brother. It's like you're all these things at once. You're not just a coach, and you realize just I like the relationship of feeling like I'm in somebody's corner and I'm just another brain for helping them succeed in their business. And it's just, and I think the passion is about anything I've ever done is really about impact and joy. Like I've got to like it and I've got to enjoy it. And if I'm getting joy from it and I'm impacting others, like it's a win-win. It's like how do you get better than liking what you do and knowing that it makes a difference in the people you do it with? And the more if it's good for one, it's good more. Like you've got a son, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
I've heard a lot about him. And so it's I have two. And I can remember when my wife said that we were gonna have another child. I got really upset, and I got really upset because I couldn't imagine with one son. I couldn't imagine that I would ever be able to love this other child like I loved my firstborn.
Mm.
Like I felt like I was gonna that was gonna be a disservice to this second child because I mean, how much love can you possibly have? Like, I couldn't love anything more than I love this child.
Right.
And then when your second child comes, my aha with having two was you never have to divide love, it always multiplies. Like, what you thought you could never have, now you can have twice as much of it. And you can love this one as much as you love the other, and that doesn't take away one bit of it from the first. You just doubled the amount of love that you could give and receive, and it was like, fuck, we should all have 100 children if we're going to love like this. But truthfully, the lesson is love always multiplies, it never divides. So the passion, I think, comes from if I can get that kind of joy from working with one person, how much more joy could I get from working with 100? And how much more could I get from working with 1,000? I mean, it's got to be 1,000 times better, right? And
Wow.
that's kind of where that kind of I think kind of comes from.
That's so crazy because there seems to be a reoccurring theme. When with the other interview that I did with Joshua, he said to me, we have a mutual friend named Dave Gutter who won a Grammy, and he said he goes, if Dave won a Grammy and he's happy, and then I'm happy for him, now there's two happy, right? And if somebody else is happy, now there's three happy. And like he was like explaining something basically similar to what you're saying with love. It's like, why is it that we do kind of look at everything as a zero sum game all the time? Like
Well, it's
it's
interesting
so.
if you look at people's reaction to super successful people.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to most and average, right? And mediocrity loves company. Like
Love that quote, by the way.
if you have if you show most people a picture of a highly successful human being that they might recognize, most average mediocre people, their description of that person's going to be probably an asshole, son of a bitch, like, got all that fucking money and he just, how many people did he step on to get there? And like, there's like this negative, like resentment towards that level of success. And the most successful people I've been exposed to in my life look at successful people like I've never known a successful person to win the lottery. Like all the successful people I know have busted their ass and provided value and made a difference in the lives of people, whether it's serving them or having a restaurant that was food that they like to eat, or making clothes that people thought were super cool to wear, or creating little phones that we like to have to carry around that we can't live without. Like, successful people provide things that everybody wants, and they can't run companies without people that want to be there at the end of the day, and they have to provide other opportunity for other people. And if your reaction to successful people is probably an asshole versus, I wonder, again, size of your questions determines the size of your answers. Like, if you say, what made that person so freaking successful, I want to know.
Yes.
Like, what can I learn from that level of success that I wouldn't know if they didn't share it with me? Like, what's the story? What's the grit? What's the, and look, and I say this in my book, Effortless. It's like, look, if you did everything right and you never like fucked up and you never hit bottom and you never had adversity, like, we don't have a lot in common, and you're probably boring. That's a boring. We like the story. We love the comeback. We love the knockdown and the getting up with a bloody nose and punching somebody. We
It's true.
love that. We
Exactly.
love the comeback. We love adversity. That's what we live to. The stories that people go see in the movies, and it's not about the perfect life and the perfect guy, the perfect thing, and everything went exactly like they wanted it to go. It's like when shit goes wrong and it works out for a reason, you realize, you know what? That's a cool thing.
It's really crazy because that's been my mantra my whole life is when I see people that are successful, I am always like super interested. How? What did you do? What happened? Oh, what about this? What about that? I'm gonna ask questions until like, I actually was accused of this by a friend of mine. He said sometimes you'll suck someone up for all the value that they can give you, and then you're bored with them when they don't have any more value for you. And
That's right.
I'm like, I don't mean it to be like that. I just,
But
once
that's
I feel
true.
like I'm no longer learning something, I do get bored. I feel like I have
No,
to move on.
I think that's anybody who's hungry and thirsty and curious. It's, look, people are in your life for a reason or a season, right? So some people, it's just a reason to, give you the thing you needed so you can get on to the next chapter. And some people are there forever, you know?
Yeah.
And some people are there for a week or a month or a few years, but it just, the thing is, get all you can out of everybody you can, because we're all just the sum total of all of our relationships and all the things we've watched and all the things we've done and all the people we've met and all the movies we've like, every input we've had creates an output for us in some way, shape, or form. And we're just all molded by those. That's why everybody's so unique, because you could never go back and replay your life, and every day of it shaped you into who you were. Like, we can have some things in common and we can have some traits in common, but the path you took creates the path you're going on, and it's just your own unique path. And that's what's fascinating to me about people.
Yeah, well, that's me too, and that's why I love that your answer to your passion, or where it comes from, is impact. That has always been my thing. Is I when I was a kid, I got into music because I was motivated by Michael Jackson and Tracy Chapman and Phil Collins making these songs about homeless people and people dying, and I just remember thinking, like, man, I want to make songs that make people think about the world and about how they are and about empathy, and like, and I had a soldier tell me in Facebook, or on Facebook Messenger, that he was going to commit suicide when he was in Iraq. One of my songs kept him from committing suicide. And
That's
to me,
impact.
that
There you
was
go.
literally the greatest. That's more valuable to me than millions of dollars, millions of album sales. Like, like that to me is like, that's it. I feel like I succeeded with that alone. And that's why I'm sure you probably wrote your book, which I want to ask you, if you're not in a hurry to go, I do want to ask you about Effortless. Okay. So basically, I had like a couple of questions here that I had put down about it. You talked about aligning the heart and the mind.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I don't, I think most people struggle with a lack of authenticity. And I think when you feel a certain way and your thoughts align with your feelings and you live in a way that's true to those things, I think you have alignment. And I think when you don't, and part of effortless is, when I say like, one of the reasons I wrote it is I think a lot of people make big life decisions by just getting to the point where they just say fuck it. And when you say fuck it, you're either giving in to something or giving up on something. And it's kind of the if you can't beat them, join them Popeye philosophy, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, what if you didn't say fuck? What if the F word wasn't a bad word? What if it wasn't the F word we all know? And what if it, and so effortless became, it's about saying F it less. It's about saying fuck it less and replacing that word with another F word that actually means you're not going to give in and you're not going to give up and you're going to live, because one of the concepts I have in there is most people live like an outside in life, right? Where you say, you grew up as a child, and I know you had a difficult upbringing, and part of that upbringing probably said you're not worthy, you're not whatever, right? Well, some people say, hey, you're athletic, right? You're smart, you're you're straight. You would never be gay. You're what like you get molded from your environment and your relationships, and those things pour into you, whether they intentionally pour into you or they don't. The messages you get from your environment and the relationships you have cause you to live this outside in life, right? And then one day, and it may happen when you're 13, depends on whether you're an old soul or whether you're a mature person, or like guys, were the worst. I mean, it might be when we're 45 where we start going, hey, wait a minute. And this is why people struggle with, I've got lots of friends who in the real estate business, being gay is like not, that's like whatever. Okay. So but you hear stories of these people, how that happened, or were they always gay? And like, no, I was like, I was raised in this kind of a family and whatever, and that would have never been acceptable, and I just was kind of playing along. And then one day I thought, hey, I don't really feel right, and I'm not aligned in my heart and my head. Like in my heart, I know I'm this. In my head, I'm thinking I have to be this, and so there's this lack of authenticity of who I am. And the day that you get to the point where you go, holy cow, that's why I think they say you're out of the closet, or that's why people like get divorced from these unhappy marriages, or people quit these jobs. Like I had a guy who came to work with me who was an engineer his whole life. I was like, he was miserable. He wanted to get in the real estate business. I was like, why do you want to get? He's like, I was an engineer. My dad was an engineer. My grandfather was an engineer. They told me I was an engineer. I thought I was an engineer. I went to an engineering school. I got an engineering degree. I became an engineer. I'm not an engineer. I should have never been an engineer. I love real estate. I want to do this. And I'm like, all right, dude, let's do it. Right. But it's like, we just get programmed. And I'll tell you another funny story. And I've said this before, like the obstetrician that delivered my sons, he can't, there's a hospital named after his great grandfather in Atlanta. Like his dad was a doctor, his grandfather was a doctor, his great grandfather was like the greatest doctor of all time in the history of Atlanta. Like he was
Wow.
like gonna be a doctor, right? He's like, do you know what? And we were talking, and I was fascinated because we were just having these conversations about stuff. And he said, you won't believe this. He said, I was halfway through med school because, oh, I said, how did you get to be an obstetrician? And he said, I was halfway through med school before it dawned on me that I was going to spend the rest of my life with sick people. He said, and I flipped the fuck out. He's like, I spent my entire life going to be a doctor, and I'm just now realizing that it means that I have to spend the rest of my life with sick people.
He's like, and I don't want to do that.
He
That's
said, and
great.
he said, I can't do that. He said, and that's when I realized I could deliver babies. He's like, it's like he said, look around, it's the only form of medicine that's happy. You're having a baby. He said, now I have a bad damn day every night. There are some bad days, but generally speaking, delivering babies is something people are excited about. It's not like you have a brain tumor and you need to come see me.
Exactly. No,
And I
absolutely.
thought that's fast. That's fascinating. That was he turned his outside in world into an inside out world. But the minute you go, I'm going to start leading from my heart, and I'm going to start living from here, and I'm going to get aligned here, and I'm going to have alignment, and I'm going to be authentic. That's an inside out life. And when you can get to that point, you are aligned in head and heart. And I know it's a long way to answer your question, but
No, no, that's
that's
good.
where that came from.
It's interesting because it almost seems like when you're young that you should be more concerned, or you should be less concerned with what you want to be and more concerned with who you want to be. Because
Yeah, we've got really good friends who are from upstate New York, and they've got an awesome. The mom like raised these kids and homeschooled, and like these kids are awesome kids. Her rule is you can't date until you're 18. So that was the message they got. I can't date until I'm 18. I can't make date until I'm 18. I can't now once they got to be like 15, 16, like it was kind of working on bubble gum and duct tape, right? Hormones were taking over. But still, the message was, I can't date till I'm 18. Like, and it
no,
was like, Mom, I think I like this girl. What do I do? I mean, I know I can't date till, it's like one of those things.
yeah,
But let me tell you, the watching that family, like the daughter is into acrobatics, and she goes and she trains to be a circus trapeze artist. By the way, she's brilliant. And in the summer, she volunteers as a volunteer firefighter in her community, and she works retail and got her cosmetology license. Um, and I've watched all this, like how, and if you were to spend time talking to them versus talking to most kids their age, their experiences are so much more expanded because they didn't give up life for an adolescent relationship or what most people do. And she just allowed them to stay open to expansion and seeing all the things that they're interested in beyond what you're going to be interested in as soon as you can, which is a boy or a girl. And she just kind of kept that at bay long enough for them to realize, hey, I like learning new stuff. I like being inquisitive and exploring and trying new things and things that you definitely realize that when you're in relationships too much, that you don't stay open to some of these other things. And she's kept that door open long enough that she's created some pretty remarkable human beings from my standpoint, right? So it's just, yeah, it's interesting. It's just really interesting.
that's yeah, it is extremely interesting. If you it could name a time in your own life
Yeah.
where you had a fuck it moment,
Yeah.
what would that be?
Um, well, it's pretty, I mean, for me, it was stepping away from a marriage of 17 years to follow the hunch of building a life with somebody that just was a huge risk at the time. Just and it was public, and it was all kind. It was just it was a scary and crazy time, but it was the greatest thing ever. It's kind of like your moment with what you're doing with your magazine, and like it's either going to be brilliant or it's going to go down in flames, right? It's like it's one of those two. Like that's where I was relationally, and it was it was like every announcer watching the game was like, don't do that. don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. You're gonna fuck this up. And but it truly, I had such a belief that I was, it was just kind of one of those moments that I wasn't really ready for, and something came into focus for me one day, and I was like, this just isn't going to work, and it's just, and I need to move on, and I need to go in this other direction. And it was the greatest decision I ever made. It was the, but if you think about it, I mean, the hardest decisions you've ever made in your life typically are the best ones when you look back on it. Like, I mean, all of us can look back and go, do you remember the time when you were like too scared and you were scared to death and you had to do it anyway? And you, oh my God, thank God you did it. Right. I mean, thank God you did it. Thank God I had the guts to do it. Thank God I said yes. Thank God I didn't listen to my knucklehead friends. Thank God I didn't, like the biggest decisions we make in life are usually the ones we lose sleep over, the ones we like sweat to death over, the ones we seek therapy for and counsel and like do. And what the biggest decisions usually look back and go, thank God I did it. Like we're supposed, all those cool quotes on Facebook and Instagram we see every day, sooner or later, you've got to actually live one.
Yeah.
Like it's great to pass them around and say, "Oh, that's really cool." But if you've never actually done it to some degree, it's kind of bullshit, and you're just kind of, you know.
Yeah.
But when you resonate with those because you actually did it, it's pretty cool.
When I took over this magazine, the original owner had passed away, and one of the guys that was partners with him at the time was one of my very, very good friends. And my background of coming from the street and coming from where I come
Yep.
from.
Yep.
And I was always beaten into the head with the idea, you got to be loyal, you got to stay loyal, you got to, loyalty is everything. You stay loyal to the people that, were there for you, or the people and, whatever. And so he came to me and he's like, I want to do food and travel with you. The original owner's in trouble with the law. He's got some problems, whatever. He's got, some issues with drug use, all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, so I want to do this with you. I say, okay. So we start doing it. And we start just killing it. I'm building salespeople. We start doing such a great job. We start putting everything together. We're making money hand over fist, all this great stuff. And then I find out that he was also had real issues with drugs, serious problems.
Yeah. Right.
And then, and this is a very, 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 very close friend of mine, of 2 decades. And he's got so messed up on drugs that he started emailing in our company emails very inappropriate, sue-worthy statements to people that we do business with and things of that nature. And I had a long talk with a couple of people that were close to me at the time, and I said, I have to get rid of him. I have to get rid of him. That's the only way that this company is going to succeed. But there was a big, huge problem in my spirit that was like, you can't betray your friend. You just need to shut down the company. You need to walk away from it. And then I started thinking about it, and I said, that's just not fair. Like I need to succeed. I need to put food on the table. I need to give my son the things he needs. I've got people that are relying on me. Like, I'm supposed to walk away from all the success that this business is happening because he can't get his shit together? No. And it was this war that was going on in my head literally for weeks. And it was the most difficult decision, one of the most difficult decisions I ever had to make, because I felt like it was like betraying him. But on the same token, it felt like not doing it was betraying me and the people that love me.
I'm gonna blow your mind for a second because you're right on the topic of I'm trying to figure out what to do. I've written another book, and you're nailing it. By the way, you're gonna like this. Can I share my screen for a second?
Yeah, absolutely, sure. I'm not sure. Do I need to do something? I don't know if
sharing's not turned on. So if you've got on the bottom of your
share
screen where it says share, it should say allow multiple people to share it.
Um.
Oh, I'm gonna send a request.
Oh, there we go. Allow.
Yeah, there you go.
So
watch this. I'm gonna do. Actually, I'm not gonna do the screen share. I'm gonna do a whiteboard.
I can get rid of this now?
Yep, I'm just going to do this.
Oh, there we go.
So, all right, here's my new book. And it's called The Energy Quadrant. Okay.
Hmm.
This is all the tasks and people in your life and business that add to the quality of your life and business and give you energy. These are all the tasks and people in your life and business that do not add to the quality of your life and business and do not give you energy, maybe even take it away.
Hmm.
These, in the multiply quadrant, these are the tasks and people that not just are good and add to the quality of your life and business, but friggin' multiply it. They are the relationships and the tasks. They make your cash register ring in business. It's the few things that make the most impact. It's the few people that make the biggest impact. That goes there. The divide quadrant, these are the tasks and the people that suck the life out of you and are toxic and are jeopardizing all of your energy and the profits of your business. And so there's a couple of phases of this that I go through when I teach this, and it's so we start with just make a who comes to mind, what task comes to mind, who comes to mind, what task comes to mind, who comes to mind, what task comes to mind, and people start writing names and tasks in each of these quadrants as we go through it, right?
Wow.
Then I say, okay, so based on that, in a typical week, tell me what percentage of your time is being spent in the plus quadrant with those tasks and people. And then what percent is in the subtract, and what percent is in the multiply, and what percent is in the division. And if the left side of this quadrant, if your total number is less than 50% of your time of the week, I can assure you that your business is not succeeding. You are not on track to hit or exceed your goals. This line is moving this way, and these things are bigger than the things on the other side.
Wow.
And if, on the other hand, these two numbers in the plus and multiply end up more than 50%, this line is actually moving over here, and these are bigger than the other side. But when you're evaluating, and here's where I'm going back, this is what tipped me off with your friend. The easy answers come up first. Like, so Joe is a plus. This is a plus. Sally's a subtract. Bobby's a multiply, and Ted is a divide for sure. I can't stand Ted. He's awful. And then the easy ones come fast. And then what happens is particularly when it comes to relationships, you have some relationships where you start going, Tommy. Ooh, um, well, I've known Tommy a long time. He's really great. And he's like done some awesome things. Like, surely Tommy is a plus. But the minute you have that relationship where you're trying to justify that he belongs in a better quadrant, the waffling person automatically, my rule is they automatically go to the least flattering quadrant that you're debating by automatically in this exercise. And I want you to see Tommy for who he is, not who you want him to be or who he used to be. Because the struggle is what he's showing up as right fucking now. And it doesn't mean he can't become that one day, but right now, he's fucking toxic. And anything down here needs to be deleted. We got to figure out how to get the hell away from it or absolutely delegate it in a way that we don't ever touch or see it. These things are things we either have to do, delegate, or ditch. But these are definite ditches or definite delegate. There's no doing. We have to eliminate it. So we create boundaries here, we create delegation up here. And if we trade the time that we're spending here for anything that we give up here and we put it back into this quadrant of X, how much more money could you make? How much more joy could you have if you spent 10% more time of your week on the tasks that really make your business the most money and stop organizing chairs on the deck of the Titanic?
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
So your friend's story just you kind of walked right into that, but
No,
that's kind of what I'm that's what I'm
this is
working on.
so mind blowing because that it's like people often say, oh, you got to spend all your time on the things that are going to be this way or that way, but the way you're breaking it down is so much more in depth because there's nuance, and you
Yes.
figured out a way to make a I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, like to make a strategy around those nuances instead of it always being so black and so white. You know
I
what I mean?
did.
I love that.
Well,
What is the
most
name of the
people,
book?
I found most top producers, when you spend your time around the top producers, here's what I've learned about top producers. They think in terms of all or nothing, always or never, black or white. It is or it isn't. That's the way top producers think. It's simple. It's go or no, go or no, go or no. And they don't ever stop to think there's a whole bunch of gray in between black and white. There are nuances. There are little things that if we're treating it like brain surgery, there are little nuances to the way the ball hits the club and the way the wind and the water and the thing and the whatever. Like, let's look at it. And now let's at least break our energy sources into four categories. And I guarantee you, instead of just accepting that Tommy's a part of your life that you got to live with, and you now label Tommy as fucking toxic, you're never going to look at Tommy again when you see him, and it's going to bug the shit out of you. And it's not going to take long before you start going, he's got to go. He's got to go. Because I
Well,
can't live with myself knowing that I labeled it and I'm living with it. That's me. That's me putting up with Tommy.
well,
That's not
well,
Tommy invading me. That's my not giving that's me not respecting my time and my boundaries enough to take care of that.
yeah. Just the fact that you're waffling on them, period, is toxic in itself.
It is.
Because that's exact it's that's what I took away from that, and I love every minute of that. I have a friend of mine who said this to me once. He said, if you were walking down the street and somebody was throwing something away and then you saw them getting ready to throw it in the trash, but then they turned and looked at you and they said, oh, and then they walked up to you and said, hey, will you buy this? How much money would you offer them? You're like, nothing. Why? Because they were throwing it in the trash. He's like, that's how people view your time.
That's
Nobody
right.
is going to value it if they see you throwing it away all the time. And I was like, oh my God. It was like someone punched me in the face when he said that, because I was like, I really needed to hear that. And I've been struggling the past 2 years with trying to make sure that my time is not wasted on the wrong people and is not wasted on the wrong things. That's actually been a big, huge part of where a lot of my energy has been going in the past 2 years, is figuring out my time, where it's spent, who should be in my life, who shouldn't be, who adds to the value, like the way I was wording it was more like who brings value, who doesn't. But there's so much nuance to it that it becomes very difficult to make that decision in a black and white area. So that's why this is so beautiful. What is going to be the name of this book?
The energy quadrant.
Oh, you said that. Sorry about the energy quadrant. I ordered your book, Effortless, and I wish I could have read it before we had this interview, but I didn't like.
You'll like it. You'll like it.
I am 100% going to read it. I'm a huge book reader, so I ordered
If you
it.
don't like to read it, I can read it to you on Audible.
Oh, you have. Oh, like you'll just sit there, read it to me.
I'll just
Like
sit
a
there and
bedtime
read it
story.
to you.
That's awesome. I'd be like, Shaun, it's about that time, man. You need to read me the third chapter.
That's
Let's
exactly
go.
right. I'm there for you whenever you want it. I'll read it to you whenever you want. Any time of day or night, I'll read it to you.
That's so awesome. And I'm just out of curiosity, underneath every video I put out on my podcast, whoever I interviewed, I always plug whatever. So anything you want me to plug, any links, anything, is there anything that you want to promote or talk about? I know your book's an obvious one, but
Not
anything
really.
else going on? No?
I don't
Okay.
even promote it that much, but I mean, I'd love for more people to read it. It's impact for me, just like we talked earlier. Man, I think my book. I've not met anybody who read it that didn't think it impacted them or was heavy or taught them something or gave them a new perspective or any way to look at living their life better. Or it's a lot of lessons I learned the hard way, and I'm sharing them with whoever reads it. So I think it's the impact for me.
Well, one of my favorite pieces of advice I ever heard, I would even argue it's the greatest piece of advice I ever heard, is that no one cares what you do or how you do it. They only care why, right? You know about that? You have this amazing why. Whenever like, I mean, look, if somebody's going to write a book because they're trying to become a famous author, or they're trying to become a successful motivational speaker, and they're trying to get paid, they're trying to make money, I don't really value the information that's in it. But if you're somebody that's like, I've already made my money, I'm perfectly happy, I'm doing this because I want to impact, that's a book I want to read. You know what I mean? Because chances are that it's going to be honest, and it's going to be ripe with good information. So I definitely know I'm going to check that out.
Awesome. Love it.
My last question to you before we go, and the only reason why I could talk to you for hours, but I definitely don't want to give people a video too crazy for them. But I would like to know if what would be your question for the next guest? Yeah.
Yeah, I've already thought about it.
Oh, okay, good.
I'd have two. One is, what's the biggest and most rewarding decision they've ever made,
Okay.
and how did they struggle to make it? And then, what's the biggest decision that they wish they would have made that they didn't?
Wow. I myself would love to answer them questions in my own head.
Right.
I already know one of them. I was just telling you about one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously the decision I made, and I don't regret it one bit. It was the hardest decision I ever had to make, but I don't regret it one bit.
You're doing a great job. You're following your heart, and you're living authentically, and only good can come of that, buddy.
Wow. Well, I really appreciate that, man. I really do.
You're awesome. There's nothing wins over grit at the end of the day, except for love. If you got love and you got grit and you can stick to it, you're gonna be just fine.
Thank you, man. That's a good place to end it.
Good place to end it. Hey, listen, thanks for reaching out and letting me do this with you. This was a lot of fun, and it's good just to hang with you. I felt like we've just been hanging at a bar. I like it a lot.
Thank you. It was a blast. I'm going to be getting a location where I'm going to actually have like a place set up where people can actually come see me. Now, I know a lot of the people that I would be talking to mostly live here, but when I do have that set up, would you ever be interested in coming back out and doing it again, but in person?
Absolutely not. No fucking way. Yes, I would do that, man. I would have so much fun. That would be great. Anytime, you name it, we'll do it.
All right. You got it then. I will make it happen. I really love this conversation. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure, buddy. Thank you for having me. I wish you all the success in the world you can handle, buddy.
Thank you, Shaun.
Talk to you soon. Thanks a bunch.